Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're going to proceed by creating our interaction system so that when we can walk around in the world and find an item on the ground, we can hit our interaction key and pick that item up, add it to our inventory, and then we can do whatever we want with it later. I'm going to create a new folder within my contents folder called interaction. And within this interaction folder, I'll add a new folder for my interaction actor. So I'll just call this folder actors. I'm going to head back to the inventory folder actors, and I'm going to drag the interaction base into my new interaction folder. Now that we have that, we can create another folder in here called widgets. And this will be the interaction widget to show our item's name on screen when we walk up to it, and also the key to interact with the item. So let's create a new widget blueprint here called WB interaction. I'll then head over to core files and let's open up the input folder, actions, and create a new interact action. So I'm just going to duplicate run, and I'll call this IA_interaction. Let's open up the input mapping context and add this new action for interaction. I'm going to assign my E key to do this. And if you remember, we assigned the E key for a debug in our player character. So let's open this up and remove that. Delete all of this. Now let's close the input mapping context. We'll need a way to check how many items we're currently overlapping, and when we want to be able to hit our E key and pick that item up and display all of the data based on the settings in the input mapping context. So let's open up the interaction folder here, open up the actor for interaction base. You can blow all of this away, and let's head to the viewport, add a new sphere collision, and this will be our interact. Let's do interaction collision. So this is within the range that we can interact with this item. I'll give it a line thickness of 1, and I'm going to uncheck hidden in game so that when we place this item within the world, we can see it, at least just for now. When you're making your full project, then you can set this back to true so you don't have to see it. And you can also set the line thickness back to 0. I'm going to head to my construction script, bring in my interact collision, and search for set sphere radius. Connect this up, and for the inSphere radius, I'm going to promote this to a new variable called interaction range, or let's say interaction radius. Let's do range. Doesn't matter. Let's make this new variable instance editable, as well as the data asset. Let's make it instance editable as well. For the data asset, actually we'll need to do expose on spawn because this is actually being called in our inventory. So let's do that before we forget. Let's head to the inventory component, and I believe this is when we were dropping the item. So let's head to drop item. Yeah, so we have the data asset right here. And we can get that data asset from the broken structure from the input, drag it all the way over here and connect it up. So when we drop the item, we'll get the exact data asset from the inventory on the ground. We can compile, save, and now let's close this inventory again. Back in here, we can set the interaction radius to default value of something like 200, and we can set the slider range to be between 0 and let's say 600 if you want to go that large. Back in the viewport, you can see the radius has changed, and if I open up my level and I place this new interaction base into it, I can now head to my details panel and modify the data asset that we want. and the radius in real time with a maximum size of 600. I can set this to be lit so you can see it a bit better. So now we can bring this down or make it larger, however we like it. Okay, by default it's 200 and that's fine. Let's head back to the interaction base here, and we're going to do, let's add a mesh, static mesh, and I'll call this item mesh. There's no need for the mesh to be a skeletal mesh because we're not going to be doing anything here other than picking up the item, and then we can display whatever we need in our inventory. The class itself assigned to the data asset will have the exact mesh, whether it be a skeletal mesh or static mesh, so that it can be displayed within the character's hand when he is playing the game. So we have the item mesh and we have the collision. I'm going to right click on the collision and create a onBegin overlap event for the component. I'm going to do the same for the end overlap, and we can fill this out later, but for now we can just add 2 print strings to say we began overlapping. So I'm going to print overlap begin, duplicate this, and I'll print overlap end. Now we have the interaction base set up. We have this item in the world, and let's play and walk over this collision. You can see our overlap begin got triggered, and we can end overlap, and you can see overlap ended. Awesome. Let's move on, and I'm going to set up the widget blueprint first. So I'm going to open up my widgets folder in my interaction folder here. Let's add an overlay because we want to have multiple elements within this. I'll set the view mode to be desired on screen. So we don't need a size box because the text might differ, and you don't want to have to manually always adjust the size box to know the size of the text that we want to add, or the size that we might want to scale the fonts in general. So right now I'm going to just add, let me think of it, let's add a vertical box. So the top of the vertical box will show the item's name, and the bottom will show the key and the interaction text. So within this vertical box, I'll then add a horizontal box because I'm not going to do any pretty like text or anything for the left side of the horizontal box. I'm just going to do a text. So I'll drag in this text, place it here. I'm going to make this a variable. I'll rename this to be interact text. I'll then place another text to the vertical box, so it'll be placed to the top. So I'm going to select this text block and place it to the top by selecting this little arrow here. And now it's to the top of the vertical box. This is going to be our item's name. Make this a variable as well. Now for this one, since this is the interact text, I'm going to rename this to be the key, interact key. And then I'll duplicate this text and call it pickup. I'll then make this a default value because this is not going to change. And for the interact key, I'll just give it a default value of like a slash or something because it's going to be changed dynamically. For the item's name, we can leave this as is. And now let's open up the event graph. And we're going to do some work on the event pre-construct. Now we can access the input mapping context from our controller class. I believe we already have that. So let's see, controller, RPG controller, and we're adding the input subsystem. We have the input mapping context right here. Now we don't need to access all of this just to get to this because we only have one. So back in the interaction widget blueprint, I'll add a new variable, and this will be my input mapping context. This will be of type input mapping context. Object reference, hit compile, and then set the default value to be our IMC RPG system. We can now get this, and let's get the mappings. Then we can do find. Now we can do all of this and then get the data, get the key. But since we don't want to do all of that, we can do a for each loop. We're going to do a for each loop with break. So when we find it, there's no need to loop down the rest of the mappings at all. And a little trick is, since we want this to be as optimized and efficient as possible, I recommend that you head to your input mapping context and you place the interaction action right here to the top, so that when the loop starts, it will come in, find this instantly, and then break the loop. So there's no need to go down and search for anything else. It's just a little bit of saving for the optimization there. I'll collapse all of this into a function, and we can call this set interaction key. Now that we have this, we can do a break right here. We're going to check if the action is equal to our IA underscore interaction, and if the key, so let's do us add a branch, if the key is equal to our interaction key, we can get that from, let's see, I'll check that in a bit. I'll do an AND boolean, and only if these two return successfully, then I can proceed. I'll hide any of the unconnected pins, add a branch, and I will make this a variable as well, and this will be called key found. Connect this to your loop body. Then I'll connect this right here, and off of the true pin we'll break the loop. With this done, we can then get the assigned key. I believe there was a way to access the key. I'll show you that in a bit. So after this, off of the completed, I'll call a return node. I'll add a branch and connect this here first, and then check if key found was true. If it was true, then we can get our interact key and search for set text. And we can also make this key a variable. So let's make this a local variable as well. And this will be the found key. Connect this to your loop body as well, and connect to found key variable, boolean variable. Then we'll get the found key and get the display name. And we don't need the long display name. And basically what this means is, let's say you want to do right mouse button. You want the engine to calculate this and just choose RMB instead of the entire text that says right mouse button. So I'm going to connect the return value here, and then I'll exit out of this function. Right, so I made a little error. I'll delete this AND boolean, connect this to the found key, and we'll leave everything else as is. Now, what will happen right now is the engine will get the E key that we assigned to the input mapping context, but it doesn't have anything around it. So what I'll do is bring this forward a bit, and I'll drag off here and do a format text. I'll then add some square brackets, and between these square brackets I'll add curly brackets, and I'll give it a text called key. The return value here will be the key, and now when we head back to the designer, it will have two beautiful brackets around our E key, right? You can see E, pickup, text block. So all we need now to set the item name. Let's head to the graph. We can now close this function and create another called set item name. I'm going to get the item name variable and search for set text. I'll drag this to the input. I'll break this and then rename it to be item name. And we'll make sure that the input text that is coming in is not empty. So we'll search for text is empty. And only if the incoming text is not empty, not boolean, then we will set the text to be the input, which is the item name. Now, what if the text is empty? Do you want to display anything at all? Or do you want to make sure that you still have something displayed so you can know that you made an error somewhere? And I recommend that you do that. So I'll just duplicate this, connect this right here, and I'll give it a text that says no name found. Great. In the next episode, we are going to set up the overlap events so that when we overlap a specific data asset within the world, we'll get the values from it and display it on our screen. That's it for this one, guys. See you in the next one.